It's time for the Douglas Coleman Show. Mr. Smooth and Savvy is joined by guests from all walks of life, from the entertainment industry to authors to political and social commentators, the famous and not so famous, the controversial and the light and fluffy. We have it all. Now, here's Douglas Coleman.
Okay, please welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show, Rachael Tamayo. Hi, Rachel. How are you?
Hi, how are you? I'm doing great.
Oh, thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm thrilled to be here.
I was looking at your bio, and I got to ask, before we get to your book, I got to ask about the 911 emergency operator, because I've never interviewed anybody who had that job. That must have been unbelievably interesting, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has influenced my writing style, and there's just not a lot of people out there that can do it, and I did it for 12 years before I stepped out of it. But yeah, it was time for me to go. Most people get out of it after, like, I want to say a couple of years. The people that do it cycle through it pretty quickly, because it's not an easy job to do.
Oh, I'd imagine not. And I mean, it's got to be a high-stress job, yeah?
Yeah, and it's not just the calls, but it's also the shifts and working on holidays and, the struggles at home because you're working nights or evenings or, you're gone on Christmas, or it's just a stress all the way around.
Does it paint sort of a drab picture of humanity when you have to deal with that all day long?
I'm going to say no, because not every call is an emergency. Actually, more of the calls that come through 911, at least where I worked, are non-emergency. Most of the calls aren't emergencies. People call 911 because they don't know who else to call. A lot of it's silly. So it's not always some crazy, horrible emergency. Sometimes it is just something silly. And we would get a lot of, when the power goes out, it was usually bad. We would get a lot of calls, my power's out. And we would tell them, you need to call your light company. I'm not sure what you expect 911 to do about it.
People actually called you if the power went out?
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Every time. Yeah, unless, you have some kind of machinery that, like an oxygen tank or something like that, and that's obviously justifiable. But anything else, I'm not sure what they thought we were going to do, but, like, sorry, I can't help you. Call your power company.
That's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Was there one particular call that you got that's stuck in your head that you never quite forgot?
Yeah, there's actually a couple. I did it for a while. And some of them I do have talked about on my TikTok. And the last major call I took was I dispatched SWAT team to the Santa Fe school shooting.
Oh, wow.
I did. Because I live like 20 minutes away from Santa Fe, Texas. And my agency has a multi-agency SWAT team. And we got the call from Santa Fe saying that they needed our SWAT team for an active shooter. And so I dispatched our SWAT team into the active shooter. He was still in the building whenever I got the call. Wow. That was the last really major call that I got before I left.
What do you think of this notion that's been going around the country with certain people calling for defunding the police and wanting to send mental health workers to particular situations? I mean, is that viable, do you think?
No, it's not. I think if you want to do something, maybe you should send mental health workers to the police department to help them out. If you really want to do something. But there's no way, because it's not just a mental health thing. People are violent. People are mean. I even on 911, I got cursed out and yelled at daily over things that had nothing to do with me. It was just a matter of people react differently to emergency situations. You just don't know how you're going to react when something hits you, and people are calling and dealing with the police on the worst day of their life most of the time. So it's just so much more that goes into it than being a social worker or a mental health care person, because it's not all crazy. Sometimes it has nothing to do with that.
Right. Sometimes it just somebody has been pushed into a rage, it doesn't make them crazy or having mental health issues. They're just having they've been pushed over the edge, basically.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah.
Everybody has the edge, and some people just get there sooner than others, I guess. Yeah, most definitely not, because the police are, in the aspect of, you know, there being officers that had no business being officers. That happens, and that does happen even with dispatchers or with any company anywhere. You know, there's always going to be somebody somewhere that's doing the job that has no business doing it, that just got in between the, you know, under the radar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or it's possible that, you know, being in that kind of stressful environment does change you. You will go in one way and come out a completely different person. And it's possible that just whatever they went through, it changed them. And they were not the same person that they used to be. So you have to take that into account too. But yeah, there are definitely officers and dispatchers that have no business doing the job. But for the most part, you know, officers, no matter how you feel about them, they're going to come and help you.
Well, that's true. And actually, I've had a couple of friends who were police officers, and they equated it to the, I call them kids because they were just like 18 years old, who were drafted and sent to Vietnam during the 60s and early 70s. And they were, you know, bright-eyed and innocent and full of life. And if they made it back from Vietnam, they were not the same people because of what they saw over there. Yeah. And I think the police are the same way. When you see that kind of, you know, that sort of human behavior on a daily basis, it has to get to you.
Of course, yeah. And even if you don't think it's getting to you, eventually it will come out. And that's where, you know, PTSD comes in. And they say if you don't deal with it, it's going to come out one way or another. It just has to.
Okay, so let's talk about your book. The book you're promoting now is called Carnal Knowledge. Is that correct?
Yes, that's my most recent. It came out in July.
Okay. How many books have you written so far?
I want to say that's number 8, I think.
Oh, okay.
Number 8. Yeah.
So did you start writing while you were still a 911 operator?
I did. Actually, I've been writing my entire life. I wrote as a child, you know, just for myself, and I stopped for many years. But when I started writing again, I was on night shift working as a 911 operator, and there's a lot of downtime when you're dispatching, especially on night shift. And if you're not dispatching for a major city like Houston or Detroit or, you know, somewhere like that where it's just never nonstop, most of the cities there's a lot of downtime between calls.
Was it kind
of
between? I was just going to say, was it kind of therapeutic for you to write?
Yeah, I think so. It just takes me, but yeah, I think it is. It just helps me. And it's always been, even when I was younger, you know, I was always telling myself stories in my head, you know, and I was like, I'm probably the only person that does this, you know, but then I realized now that all writers do that, you know.
All right.
But yeah, definitely.
So tell us about the book. Give us a synopsis of it.
Well, basically, it's the sin, and it's in the Deadly Sin series. The first book was Break My Bones, which was the sin of wrath, and this is Carnal Knowledge, the sin of lust. But this is about a serial killer, and it's not like lust like everybody assumes lust to be. It's lust in the sense of a hunger that cannot be satisfied, meaning lust can be for anything, not just sexual.
So it's a bloodlust.
So I try. Yes. It has such a twist at the end where everything just kind of comes together, and it's like this light is turned on, you know, or everything just makes sense. You know, it has a really huge surprise ending. But basically, the main character, her name is Ren. She finds out that she's being stalked by a serial killer, and it's how she deals with it and all the things that happen to her. That's basically what the story's about.
You're listening to Mr. Smooth and Savvy right here on the Douglas Coleman Show. We'll be right back after these commercial messages.
Did DJC Music and DJC Productions are pleased to announce a brand new website. We have started a listing website for radio show hosts as well as potential show guests. This is a meeting site where hosts and guests can come together. Show hosts can list their show and types of guests they're interested in booking. Potential guests can list their talents, bio, accomplishments, or anything they feel makes them an interesting radio show guest. There are no recurrent payments, only a one-time $5 listing fee. Your listing will stay up until you decide to cancel. Previous guests of The Douglas Coleman Show are welcome to submit their guest listing free of charge. Go to radiohostsandguests.com. That's radiohostsandguests.com.
Love coffee, huh? But wait a minute. It seems like every time you finish a cup of coffee, you get all of these side effects along with it. Heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, acid reflux. As the world's first and only organic acid-free coffee, Tyler's Coffee is able to provide a healthier option in the solution for more than 100 million individuals who have sensitive stomachs or suffer from acid-related modalities. This is Tyler's acid-free coffee. Coffee without the consequences.
Hi, this is John Morgan, production supervisor for DJC Productions. You're listening to The Douglas Coleman Show.
Are you self-published or do you have a publisher?
I have a publisher. I published my Deadly Sin series through Tangled Tree Publishing, which is a division of Hot Tree Publishing.
Would you give any advice to authors who wanted to start or have a book? Because these days you can kind of go either way. It's not like it used to be where you had to get a publisher. These days you can self-publish through, Amazon or Kindle. They have those programs, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, a lot of people are going that way now. And I think a lot of people self-publish because they're afraid of the rejection. But I would say don't be afraid of the rejection. Don't be afraid of it. It's going to come no matter what. Everybody's rejected. Everybody. Just because your book is rejected doesn't mean that it's not good. That just means that it wasn't right for that publisher. It's like you just have to find the right one for you, and there's so many. But as far as writing advice, I would say don't give up. Don't put it down, because I put my writing down for many, many years, and I wish I hadn't. I can only imagine where I'd be now if I hadn't. If you have the gift, just keep doing it and keep writing, and don't be afraid to let people read your work and take their advice with a grain of salt. But don't give up. You'll get there.
From what I've been told, publishers have rules regarding what is acceptable in a particular genre and what is not acceptable to them. And one of the reasons that some people have decided to self-publish is because they essentially can create their own genre. They can just sort of make up one that kind of fits or combine a bunch of genres together.
Yes.
Did you find that a problem or an issue when you submitted your work with it fitting into a particular genre or not?
I definitely. Actually, the funny thing was when I first submitted Break My Bones to Tangled Publishing, they rejected it. And when it's okay to turn back around, especially if you don't get a form letter. I didn't get a formal letter from them in form of rejection. If you can turn around and reply back to your publisher and ask them what the problem was with the novel, and a lot of times they'll tell you. So I replied back to her and I said, can you explain to me what the issue was? Because they said they liked it, but it wasn't quite a fit. Because I also would say I don't have a problem making changes. I'm not married to the story, Sometimes a publisher knows better. And they said it's got too much romance in it for a thriller, because I was coming out of writing romance and it's difficult to get that out of your system, honestly. They said it's got too much romance in it. So I replied and I said, if I cut the romance back, would you take a look again? And they said, yes, definitely. We like the book. It just had too much romance, because thrillers are thrillers and romance is romance. And they just didn't want them mixed together. And so I did. I took out the good, 50% of the romance, and I sent it back. And they're like, this is it. This is great. This is perfect. And they accepted it. Huh. So yes, they definitely do. Sometimes those rules are there for a reason. The multi-genre authors, one of the things they struggle with is because you build an audience for a certain genre, because certain people like to read certain things, and when you jump from genre to genre, you have to build an audience all over again. Because the same people that read thrillers might not read romance, or the people that read fantasy might not read horror, and if you jump back and forth, it's like you're having to build multi audiences for each book you write.
It's interesting because when you watch movies, it seems like the better movies have a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
That it's not so exclusively one thing or another. There does always seem to be a character who falls in love with somebody somewhere along the way,
right?
Regardless of what they're doing. I find that kind of interesting,
right,
that they just wanted that cut back.
I think it was just too heavy in the plot because it's still in there. It's just not like the main thing. It's okay as like a minor subplot,
Oh, I see. Okay.
But not like, let's not make it like the focus of the story, because it kind of steals the show. And you want the story to be about, her getting away from her ex-husband and the domestic violence situation that she struggled with him. You want the story to be about that and not about her and this new guy. It's still in there, but it's not like the main thing anymore. I just cut some of the scenes out. It's basically all I did.
I want to ask you about something else that's on your bio. It said you made a TikTok video and it got 600,000 views.
Actually, now it's up to like 1.8 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, tell me about the video.
Well, basically, like I said, I was dispatched for 12 years, and there's not much talked about in 911 as far as kind of calls and how it actually works. And so I started making videos about what I knew and educating the public on certain things. And I told a story about a 911 call that I received. A 911 call about a woman that had actually called 911 because her two kids had drowned in the bathtub. Well, the woman was actually convicted of negligent homicide. And that's the story I was telling. What happened with that, with the 911 call and everything. And the comments blew up over whether she had postpartum depression or not, which is where my donations came from. Because the argument that was going on in the comments was actually the argument which is what created the viral post, because the algorithm on TikTok kept pushing it through because everybody was commenting and arguing about it. Yeah, it's my most. I haven't had that many views on another video.
Well, what was the argument? The argument was that she should not have been convicted?
Well, the argument was whether it was postpartum depression or not, I think. And then they start getting into, well, how the whole, well, you can't excuse it because she had postpartum depression. And, and then it got into that whole thing. And it's funny because in the video, I never said anything about postpartum depression. I'm making a lot of assumptions. And I just happen to know, because I know the history of this person, she did not have postpartum depression. She had a serious problem with mental illness, and it had been going on for a long time. But it wasn't new, because the kids were 15 months old by then. So it wasn't postpartum. It was other issues. But they just made the assumptions that it was postpartum because that's just what's common.
So, I mean, what do you think you should do with somebody like that? Do they belong in jail or do they belong in a hospital?
I don't know the full extent of her mental illness. I know that it was there. I hadn't dealt with her very much myself, but I know the officers had told me that she definitely had something going on. And she pled guilty to the negligent homicide, even though she swore it was an accident. I kind of think somebody like her should be in jail. She only got 5 years though, so she's actually set to be released next year. I found that out when I Googled it not long ago. It just depends, like say with Andrea Yates,
yeah,
she was so which also was here close to where I am. She had postpartum psychosis, and that was another thing I mentioned in the comments of the video. Was a couple of people, I was like, the ones that actually do this kind of thing, this is not postpartum depression. That is postpartum psychosis, which is a different problem. Andrea Yates had postpartum psychosis, and she was extremely, extremely mentally ill. And she did reach out for help, but it got to be to the point where it was too late. And she belongs in a hospital. I think she belongs in a hospital because she was so clearly, obviously deranged But the one I had dealt with, I think she belongs in prison.
Well, anything else? Did we miss anything? Or did we cover it all?
I think we've covered it all. We've covered quite a bit. Yeah.
Okay. Well, give us your website so that people can come check you out and check out the book.
Okay. My website is RachelTamayoWrites.com. I also have a blog on there. I do book reviews because honestly, I'm terrible at blogging. So I just review the books that I read, so you can find out what I like to read, what I have going on, and links to all my books.
Well, Rachel, thanks so much for coming on the show. It was nice talking to you. And best of luck with your books and your writing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I had a good time.
Snow's first fall for you and I. Winter has brought the season of light, and all the simple things the wondrous giving spirit brings, so that we may remember the warmth of a smile, the laughter, oh, the comfort while we all gather together. Sky is clear and the air is crisp. Stars particularly luminous. And while I'm standing here, the melody is also clear of songs from long ago, reminding me of precious days of peace and love in all the ways we all gather together, so that we may remember to cherish your beloved, honor your friends, love everyone, remember how we are all blessed. Cherish your beloved, honor your friends, love everyone, remember how we are all blessed. Remember to cherish your beloved, honor your friends, love everyone, remember how we are all blessed. Cherish your beloved, honor your friends, love everyone, remember how we are all blessed. Yes, cherish your beloved, honor your friends, love everyone, remember how we are all blessed. Yes, cherish your beloved, honor your friends, love everyone, remember how we are all blessed.
The temperature is falling, like the autumn leaves outside, and everyone is longing arrive. You can feel it in the air. Jack Frost, you know he's coming round. There is joy everywhere. Because those who are so dear to us are coming into town to adhere to the glorious one who wears the crown. And I'm wishing you a very Merry Christmas. I'm wishing you have a Happy New Year. I'm wishing you a very Merry Christmas. Hoping it brings you smiles and lots of good cheer. It's time for us to admire the one who's known as the Messiah. He was born to save the Lord's children of the earth. He feeds the hungry soul and he quenches every thirst. You can feel it in the air. There is joy everywhere. The children are so anxious for presents they desire. Outside you see them playing, wearing warm attire. You can feel it in the air. Jack Frost, you know he's coming round. There is joy everywhere. Yeah, because those who are so dear to us are coming into town to adhere to the glorious one who wears a crown. And a very Merry Christmas, yeah. Have a Happy New Year. Wishing you a very Merry Christmas. Hoping it brings you smiles and lots of good cheer. Christmas is that time of the year for you to be with your family and loved ones. Be of good cheer. Strive to be happy. And remember, you can do all things in Christ who strengthens you.
I can tell she has everything she's ever wanted. Chanel makeup perfectly in place. Acting like a Barbie doll every time a guy walks by. But let me tell you, she's a lie. Wishing I had those glass slippers on my feet, but that's not my kind of fantasy. She has those high kicks, lipstick, just like in a movie. Snapshots taken by the paparazzi. Got my worn out t-shirt, holes in all my jeans. Got that picture perfect beauty from within me. La 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 la. Oh, picture perfect. closest to the ocean. My heart is wider than the sea. She has those high kicks, lipstick, just like in a movie. Snapshots taken by the paparazzi. Got my worn out t-shirt, holes in all my jeans. Got that picture, perfect beauty from within me. La 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 la. What if people knew my name? Would they know which melody to sing? Would they find their perfect beauty from within, from within? But she has those high kicks, lipstick, just like in a movie. Snapshots taken by the paparazzi. Got my worn out t-shirt, holes in all my jeans. Got that picture, perfect beauty from within me. La 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 la, from within me. La 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 la, from within me. La 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 la, la la la. Oh, picture perfect.
I could say you had me the moment I met you. I could say I've never been the same. I could say forever with you'd be too short. I could say I smile when I hear your name. I could go on about all the ways you make me laugh when I'm feeling down, or the way you get me so high that my feet can't touch the ground. I could say you've turned me into the man I am today. I could say, oh,